Hi guys, and welcome back. This is Mark, markchanmovement.com. I've been having some issues with the microphone, with the video. So if you have problems getting this, feel free to let me know. This will be the second live Q&A. And for those that don't know, the reason that we're doing this is we just recently launched the Patreon page. And Patreon is a platform where you can support your favorite creator and become part of a membership site or a membership part of a website. Basically, it gives you certain benefits. So in my case, I'm putting out content that revolves around making your life better, pretty much. So being a physiotherapist, a personal trainer, and a sports nutritionist, most of what I put out revolves around exercise, health, nutrition. So pretty much anything that makes you feel better and or perform better. And what I like to do is I like to put out stuff that is practical. So the idea is I give you something to work with, and you can immediately do that, try it, self-assess, self-test, and potentially report back to me. And so think exercises, training programs, ways to tweak your nutrition, ways to calculate the amount of food, calories, and so forth that you need, and so on and so on. There's also a bit of a bigger picture towards this Patreon page. I'm working with a very passionate, very talented blind Cambodian called Sovat. He is my masseur, and together we kind of combine forces when it comes to injury management, ISS, and heat treats. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to raise money for him to get his own business going. So if you want to be part of that, I'll drop a link to the Patreon site in the description. So feel free to take a look, and I mean we'll be happy to have you on board and make sure we put out some information that's valuable to you. Now today we're going to go over some readers' questions. Last time it was very injury heavy and mostly knee heavy. People struggling with ACL cruciate issues and surgery related. This time it's a little bit more focused on fitness and general exercise. And we're gonna tackle one of the issues, one of the questions that's probably the number one question I get with clients, and that's in terms of goals. Many clients want to burn fat and build muscle at the same time. So the question is it possible? And if so, how do I do it? And this is it's not an easy question to answer, but let me give you the my personal opinion, and then go a little bit more into it. So if I would have to say if is it possible or not, I would say no, it's not possible. However, I think that I might be wrong. I'm just saying that it's not possible because it's the most reliable thing to say in terms of if you want to keep your goals realistic. Now, okay, let's go into this a little bit deeper, and you get more of a better understanding of why I say no and why I might be wrong as well. So, for starters, it's important to understand that in order to build muscle, you need to be in what we call a positive or an energy positive balance. So if you want to build, at the end of the day, you need to have more energy coming in than there is going out. There has to be leftover energy for your body to build and repair and so on. So that means that at the end of the day, you have to eat more calories than you burn. But keep that in mind. Energy positive allows you to build. To be able to shed weight, you need to be in an energy negative balance. So, in other words, you need to eat or get energy in less than what you're putting out. So, typically, people that want to gain weight will be 200-300 calories over their resting metabolic rate. If you don't know what this is, I can provide a little link to my website, and within 5 seconds you have your own resting metabolic rate. Basically, it means the amount of energy that your body burns when you're not doing anything. So if you're at home on the bed watching Netflix all day, you still go through a certain amount of energy, and that's your resting metabolic rate. If you want to gain weight, you want to be somewhere above 200, 300 calories above. If you want to be below, you're going to be 200, 300 calories below. It's a very simplistic way. There's many ways to do this, but just for the sake of this argument, 200, 300 plus or minus. This is, by the way, also the reason that so many bodybuilders work in two different phases. So you've got a bulking phase where they pretty much eat everything they can get their hands on as they try to build mass. Then follows a cutting phase where they decrease their calorie intake. They take some things out of their diet. They maybe change their training approach as well to cut down some of the fat and have a certain net gain of muscle in the end. Look, if it was easy to build muscle and shed fat at the same time, I don't think most bodybuilders would go through these different phases. And keep in mind, these guys, the professionals, not all of them, it's a massive generalization, what I'm going to say. But most of the professionals are on significant amounts of steroids, which, let me turn that on. Which obviously helps with the entire anabolic process, amongst other things. So these two different approaches of gaining weight and losing weight makes it very difficult to do both things at the same time. There must be a way to make this possible, and I've seen clients that along the training program have definitely gotten stronger, have gotten more defined muscles, and at the same time have had their fat percentage decrease. So it's definitely possible up to a certain extent, but it also has to do with what you or what the client is envisioning. So if they're thinking that they can, get to a sort of a cover model type physique as they're still 20 kgs overweight, and they can, become muscular and very slim at the same time, it's just a bit of a there's disappointment waiting there, I think. So what do you need to do? I think there's a couple of things that are important, a couple of steps that you need to take, and you can still approach your fitness goals with, in the back of your mind, trying to build fat or build muscle and lose fat at the same time. But there's a couple of things that you need to know. If you want to make the chance as big as possible that you're going to lose weight while keeping or gaining muscle at the same time, you need to be very controlling of the amount of calories that you get, macronutrients, micronutrients. So that means weighing everything that you do. You have to be sort of a fitness terminator, right? You have to. There's no room for error if you do it this way. If you calculate everything, the amount of calories necessary, the macronutrients you should be getting it from, weighing everything, dividing it over different meals over the day, measuring your weight and remeasuring your weight, and preferably not just weight but body composition as well, so fat percentage and muscle mass, then you have a clear sort of you have a clear way to see if your approach is working. So today I will get my fat percentage and muscle percentage tracked. Then I'll have this certain approach calculated. I'll follow that strictly. Then I'll retest in 2 weeks, and then you have a very good idea if you're going in the right direction. Now, keep in mind, there's a couple of problems here. So first of all, you can do a macronutrient calculation. Doesn't mean that your genetic buildup works well with that specific approach. So you work with these sort of absolute truths, but you have to be able to step away from them as well and see if this is actually working for you. So how well do you tolerate carbs, for example? Some people can eat a ton of carbs and fine. Some people pretty much only look at carbs and they put on weight. So if you're a heavy responder to carbohydrates, macronutrient based, you could feel like you can eat 300 grams of carbs per day, but then you try and you put on fat mass. The same goes for your training approach, of course. So you need to be able to be strict on one side and at the same time be flexible in acknowledging that your approach is not working. So okay, now that being said, there's also another way that is a little bit less strict. You still have to train hard, and you still have to eat clean, and you have to eat well, and it's still not easy. But in my opinion, it's a little bit less of a hassle. So pretty much, what you have to do to make sure that the chances of you building muscle and losing fat at the same time as you're getting more fit is the following. You need to do something daily. So every day you work out. You don't have to lift every day, but you definitely need to lift 5 out of 7 days, maybe 6 out of 7 days. The seventh day you can keep as a recovery day. Then during the lifting days, you want to use what we call a split approach. So to give you an example, if I am doing some kind of exercise program where I'm focusing very much on my arms, my biceps, the next day, I don't want to work those again. So what I do instead is I focus on the antagonists, the muscle with the opposite function, which in this case would be the triceps. And you can do this for the entire body. So an idea of a very basic split approach would be push and pull. On Monday, I use and train all the muscles that help me with pushing: bench press, dumbbell press, overhead press, squats maybe. The second day, I focus on pulling. So that will be pull-ups, row type exercises, barbell curls. You can find some very good templates for doing a push and pull. Depending on how many days you go, you want to divide the body in two different groups, or maybe even in three. So you can focus on doing chest and triceps on one day, back and biceps the other day, and shoulders and legs on the third day. This is really depending on your goals and how much time you spend at the gym and so on. But just for the example, you want to divide over different days so that one part can rest as you're training still. That's very important. Now, cardio wise, I'd advise you do some kind of high intensity cardio. So a clear cut example of high intensity cardio work would be sprinting. So put some cones down in a 20-yard distance and sprint, or do what we call suicide drills. I don't really know why they're called this way. It's not very enticing to do it, but you put some cones down and you sprint from 1 and back to 0 to 2, back to 0 to 3, back to 0 to 4, and you keep doing that, going back and forth, and really gets your heart rate going. You'll start to breathe fire before you know it. Burns a ton of calories, and because it's so explosive, the fast twitch muscle fibers in your core and in your legs and your butt, they start to get recruited as well, and they can actually help with muscle growth rather than typical steady pace running on a cardio machine, which is first off boring. It doesn't really lead to any athletic development, and it can actually promote a catabolic state, which means muscle loss, which could mean muscle loss. So, okay, what we have is 6 days, 5 or 6 days where you lift, divide the body over different parts, and make sure that you do some high intensity cardio, not necessarily on every day, but make sure you do that 2 or 3 times a week. Sorry. Then later on, the day 7, you do what we call recovery day. So this can be steady state cardio. You don't have to do 1.5 hours. Basically, the idea is just to get the blood flowing, to flush the body of any metabolic waste, to feel good, Maybe afterwards, do some stretching, do some soft tissue work. If you've got some tightness or some weak spots, focus on the weak spots. You just want to keep the engine and the machine going, but your focus is on recovery and not necessarily about on building muscle. In my opinion, this is the best way to approach this and get the best of both worlds. And if this is not good enough for you and you really want to pick one, I don't want to do this. I want to either lose fat first or gain muscle first. Which one should I pick? In that case, I think it's a very easy pick. You go for building first, because there's so much benefits that you get from resistance work that you don't get from running on a treadmill. Running on a treadmill, you just burn some calories as you do it. It's very one-dimensional. There's a lot of impact on the body, on the joints. It's very boring. You don't really get that much of a better conditioning from it, aerobic capacity. If you compare that to resistance work, you get stronger. It's good for your nervous system. It's good for your muscles, good for your tendons, good for the ligaments, the connective tissue, the fascia. The joints are better supported. It's better for your hormonal profile. There's so many things that benefit. Plus, building muscle is active tissue. That means that it burns even if you do nothing. It needs to be provided with energy because it's living. Compare that to fat. Fat's more sort of passive tissue. It doesn't really do much. It doesn't really need much, and muscles do. So if you pack on some muscle, that means that during the day your metabolism is going to be higher as well, which in the long run will make sure that you can burn some more fat as well. So it becomes a byproduct of you getting stronger, rather than it becoming the first and foremost goal. Okay. So that pretty much wraps it up. So can you burn muscle and fat? Can you burn fat and build muscle at the same time? I mean, who knows? It's probably possible. Is it possible for most people? Probably not, because it's too difficult, too strict. Can lead to a lot of frustration. It's just not a very good approach. If you really want to test that and prove the world wrong, I mean, I'd be happy to see you do it, and I wish you the best of luck. But just make sure you go 200% and use the strategy that I've provided. So train 6-7 days a week. Sorry, 5-6 days a week. Lift, do high intensity cardio. Make sure you have a recovery day. And I would say if you go that hard, get some guidance as well. Get somebody to help you with keeping track of things, and make sure you got the technique right and everything, because we didn't even discuss that. Then last but not least, if you do feel like you really have to pick one, then go for building. Build yourself up, make yourself stronger, work on your coordination, work on your control, work on your balance, work on your strength, work on your endurance, and you'll see that over the long run, you won't just become a lot more fit, but you'll lose fat as a side effect in the process. All right, so thanks for watching, and I hope this was valuable to you. If there's a certain topic that you would like for me to discuss, leave it in the comment section below. Please check out the Patreon page, and I will see you next time. Bye.